again.
And the message is the same. We were right in the beginning, weren't we, the anti-war protest?
Yeah, we were absolutely correct. And just as Bush wages war on the people of Iraq and potentially the people of the world, given the opportunity, he also wages war on the American labor movement and working people and poor people in this country. The changes in the labor laws and the attacks on organized labor are unparalleled since the 20s and 30s in this country, and through legislation and all kinds of sleazy attacks, they're turning the clock back on organized labor and the people's right to organize. They've made it very difficult. At a time when the labor movement is slightly fractured, they've taken advantage to a large degree of those fractures, and they're doing everything they can to discourage people from getting together and getting organized in their shops. But as we saw last week, when you tie the issue of the war and immigrants in this country, the attack on immigrants and the attack on labor, I think we have a powerful group and a potential united front there.
Isn't it interesting now that they're worried about the security of the southern border when not so they're tying the Mexicans into the terrorism, and isn't that interesting as far as the Bush administration?
Yeah, suddenly it's the Mexicans. The Irish Prime Minister made a special trip here to tell him not to tire the Irish into it, and I'm sure the Polish are not real happy about it either.
Yeah.
But who knows? The next thing we could face a threat from Canada, cheap imported goods, too much maple syrup. But it's obvious that they're really grasping at straws. But they're such ideologues in that they haven't changed their tune one bit, and they insist that they're as correct today as they were when they launched this war, when it's perfectly obvious to everyone that that's not the case.
Okay. How about the veterans issues? 10, 15,000 named, and on,
once again, it's the attack on veterans benefits and care for their families, and even for the families of active duty GIs who are living basically at poverty level while their husbands or children are serving in the military. Plus, they just continue to slash the budget at the VA immensely, cutting out more and more bed space and more services as the need for care by the veterans increases. Not only the Iraqi veterans, but the veterans from the Vietnam War are coming of age where they need that care too, and it's just not going to be there for them. They're eliminating. They're going down the list and eliminating categories of people who will not be able to use the VA. Back in 1975, we took over the Statue of Liberty because they cut off 6.7 million veterans who, from the period between the Korean War and the Vietnam War, totally out of benefits without notification. And that process is continuing now in smaller groups, but daily they're just chopping it away at those sort of services. We need national health care for everybody, and I think that would go a long way to taking care of the veterans' problems as well.
How about recruitment? What's the latest take on recruitment as far as from your point of view?
Well,
veterans again.
They're starting to really get their butt kicked in a lot of schools because the parents have become more and more involved. I know here in the Chicago area there's at least almost 60 different locations where counter recruiting is going on in the high school, with a major concentration going on within the urban area. Now, Chicago, as you might now know, is the most militarized high school system in the country, with nearly 50 like ROTC, junior ROTC, and military academy projects. And the Daley administration is just on its knees before the Bush administration, creating as many of these academies. They've got like 20 or 30 more of these things on the drawing board, and they're siphoning away the resources from our public education to fund these things. Everyone thinks that they're like being paid for by the federal government. These are being paid for by the taxpayers, and it's coming out of the school budgets primarily. So people are increasing their attacks on that academy system. How are they doing in recruiting? Not very damn good. They've lowered their standards of the people that they're taking in the military. I was in the Air Force at the time when they brought in what they called McNamara's 500,000, and they expected me as a Vietnam veteran and a lot of other experienced sort of NCO cadre types to educate these kids and talk them into going to Vietnam. Some of them couldn't care for themselves. They couldn't wash themselves. They were functionally illiterate, and I think that they're going back towards that trend in terms of recruiting. Just they want sheer numbers, and quite frankly, they'll give them a quick education on how to use their weapons and send them off. And they say the National Guard's turned the corner, but the numbers for the National Guard and the reserves don't seem to be improving at all. People took those opportunities because they thought that they could get some additional income or get some educational benefits or health benefits for a variety of reasons, and suddenly they find themselves like the sign on the truck said in Iraq, 1 weekend a month my ass, and yes.
I was just going to ask, is it true that the McNamara 500,000 there was like a much higher death rate?
Oh, of course. Yeah, these
recruits are.
Yeah.
Not bode well.
Sure. It doesn't bode well, and the equipment and the technology is getting more and more sophisticated, and the people they're bringing in are less and less educated, and they're out the back door. Your young officer and your experienced NCO cadre are leaving because they don't want a thing to do with this. They came up after the Vietnam War, and it was easy being primarily in a peacetime military, but now they find themselves in a wartime military with tour after tour after tour of duty, where the situation is they don't want to do that anymore. And the young reserve officers, even let's take one that's a typical business sort of guy, your young reserve officer is saying, well, I'll get my job back, but when I go back I won't have the corner office anymore. I'll be back in a cubicle, and some other guy has gotten all my accounts and he's moved on. We're fighting on a daily basis. People say, well, there's a law that says people have to get their jobs back. Well, there's a lot of laws in this country that aren't enforced, and the one where they say kids have to get their jobs back or people need to get their jobs back, you have to fight for those jobs, even in a lot of union situations. As a union steward myself, I had to fight to get vacation that a guy had earned while he was in Iraq. When he came back from Iraq, this company I work for, I can't use their name, but they drive a lot of brown trucks around and bring stuff to your house, wouldn't give him his vacation that he'd earned. And we went through this incredible process of labor until I finally said, I'm going to bring a bunch of congressmen downtown and a bunch of TV cameras, and we're going to use this as an example, as a case of what you're doing to these kids. Boom, the next day he's got his vacation, We still should have done it anyway, but that's the sort of situation we're faced with. And people in the reserves and the Guard, small businessmen, people that own gas stations and convenience stores, they're losing everything. They lose their business. Their business is like, then they lose their house. Then then their parents lose their house if they put up the money to support them. And it's just an endless chain of like broken lives and broken fortunes that this war is going to, is still creating. Sure.
You're gonna march, or?
Oh yeah.
You're gonna march anyway.
Well, tonight I'm marching.
You're a real soldier. He's listening.